Hello, and welcome to On the Pitch, a Missouri soccer podcast and your home for all things Missouri soccer. I'm your host, Bridger Pretz, and I'll be bringing you the latest news, match analysis, interviews, and stories from every corner of the Missouri and American soccer scene. Whether you're up in St. Louis, Kansas City, Columbia, or anywhere in the Show Me State, this is where Missouri soccer lives. Let's get into it. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the On the Pitch podcast with my guest, Jacob Plocher from Missouri Western State University. Jacob, how you doing, man?
Doing great. Again, another beautiful day. Had a little bit of rain to kind of affect our day with the Chiefs camp, but we're getting through it.
Yeah, let me talk to you about that a little bit. What's it like getting to hang out with the Chiefs for a little bit?
It's interesting and unique. I really love it because we can have our team back on campus and we work trash. There's a couple videos from our media department of kind of a day in the life of what they do. But it's cool. Obviously, we're involved in college athletics. And so we kind of go through a process, but to see how they run things and have their practices structured and organized. It's a whole nother level, not to mention they're just massive individuals.
Oh, dude, they're freaking animals, man.
Yeah.
They're animals. So what are some things that you can take away from, even though they're like, pro football players, what's some of the things that you can take away that they do that you could use in your own system?
I think it's just, watching and seeing how sharp they are, whether it's transitioning from drill to drill or rotating or, things of that nature, that can kind of really help you. Obviously the communication and the organization component of it as well. I love being able to watch other sports, other teams, other coaches kind of in their element, because I love to be able to then, steal this or use this. I went to the Women's World Cup when it was up in Winnipeg in Canada, because I was coaching up in South Dakota at the time. And while everybody else was kind of enjoying the pregame festivities and everything else, I was sitting down like close to the field, just watching how they were warming up, what they were doing. We had a basketball coach interview and was running the team through a training session or a practice for them. And I was watching. And one of the things that he does is if they're playing like a 3-on-3 or a 5-on-5, if they're playing to a certain score, whoever wins or whoever scores that last point has to like make a free throw to win it. So kind of a clutch moment and being under that pressure. So I stole something like that, and we incorporate making PKs when we're doing certain things just to try to, simulate a pressure situation and see how they handle it and respond.
Yeah, it's so tough to like add those moments of where it's like game like in practice, because there's only like, because even though you have kids who give 110% all the time, it's still not a game. So it's tough to like practice like you're playing a game every day. So you have to build things like that. We did things like that. Like last goal win is always the big one that everyone, all of a sudden you just notice a complete shift in the momentum, because they're like, I coach a little U10 team here now in Kansas City, and every single scrimmage that we do, a team could be winning like 6-0, 7-0. And I'll say, all right, last goal wins. And then the team that was losing will score. And of course, like, it's pandemonium. They just go nuts, even though they technically lost like 7-1. But you've got to like add that in there somewhere, just to get them motivated. So obviously you're getting to see Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and all these guys like up front. Do you have a favorite Chiefs player? Do you have a guy that you like to watch?
So I'm a big 49ers fan. So
okay.
So the Chiefs have actually hurt me quite a bit here as of late. The Chiefs now have a couple former 49ers that so it's always fun to be able to watch and kind of pick them out and see how they do. I think Andy Reid is probably the one. Just again, he's that kind of just that magician, and seeing how he goes about things, even just throughout those training camp practices is really cool. So player wise, I don't know. Obviously you could say Patrick Mahomes just because of what he's doing is next level. So
yeah, he's got the aura, dude. Like he's just like one of those guys you just watch and you're just like, God, how does he just? He's so freaking cool.
Yeah.
So why 49ers? I know we're getting into your whole football stuff, but
you're good.
49ers.
So my parents are originally from Minnesota, and they're Vikings fans, diehard. But when I was growing up, my dad was a rescue swimmer in the Coast Guard, so we moved around quite a bit. So I was out on the West Coast. We were in Washington and Oregon at the time, and I was much younger. But it was honestly between them or the Raiders. I don't know why. I don't know if it was the colors. I don't know what. But it was back, obviously, when, Steve Young, Joe Montana, Jerry Rice, and just their offense was electric and it was exciting. And I watched the game, and just ever since then, hey, I've committed to it. There's no bandwagon. You stay with them through thick and thin, and hopefully they can stay healthy and go on a nice run this year.
My wife is from Kansas City. I'm originally from Central Missouri. I was never like a big football guy, but since I met her, I've been officially branded a Chiefs fan now, and I watch them, and I've got some Chiefs stuff on my wall now. And now that I'm living up here, it's like I don't think I can support anybody else because then I think like everybody would disown me. So, but let's get into the soccer let's get into soccer things. Tell us a little bit about your playing career. You said you kind of moved around a lot. Yeah. So, like, when did you kind of really start playing, and where was that at, and how did that shape you?
Yeah, would have been probably about age 4 or 5 when we were in Washington State originally. Just playing rec. I think that was also one of the nice things that my dad was basically my coach all the way through rec up until high school. With different things, with him being gone, that was kind of his way of being able to encourage. And obviously he loved sports. He played sports. So I thoroughly enjoyed having him as my coach. So again, we always had kind of faith family soccer. And so when we moved to Missouri, which I was my 8th grade year that we moved after my dad retired, and we were coming from Mobile, Alabama. Just still did the same thing, kind of got into the rec. Unfortunately, Springfield was probably the closest for club, and that was about 2 hours at the time. So club never really worked out for me. I wish it would have, because obviously that's a big recruiting opportunity with the kids these days. But I also then just knew I had to have a better work rate. I had to go and do extras on my own, and while maybe we weren't the most talented team, we did have kind of that blue collar, hardworking team. And so that was kind of fun. And just whether it was through, like I said, 8th grade and through high school, that was the route that I knew I wanted to go. I wanted to be probably a football player growing up initially, but when you stop growing and you're not as big, one of those hits is going to be the end of you. So just stuck with soccer.
Okay. And so you said you went to West Plains High School?
Yeah.
How were you guys? How was the Zizzers, right? Is that what you guys are?
Yep.
How were you guys back then? Because what years were you playing high school?
I graduated in 2004, so 2000 to 2004. And like I said, we were good. We were competitive. It was we, whether it was districts, we were playing against, Kickapoo, Rolla, Glendale, so they had some, even Joplin, I think I said at the time was ranked in the state. So, it was fun. Like I said, we had a good core group. Kind of, I'd say middle of the pack, upper echelon of within that class. I can't remember what class we were that in that time.
Probably would have been like 2, I think.
Probably, yeah. So, but again, it was a good experience and loved it.
Yeah, nice. And so, after you finished up your high school career, did you go on and play college? Where you get recruited?
Yeah.
Like, how's that work?
So my brother was a cross country and track guy, and he was a little bit older than me, and he was really good at what he did. And he actually ended up at Missouri Southern in Joplin for cross country and track. Okay. And so, I went there for a visit, kind of like the area. Obviously, it's close enough to home to family can come up and watch and support. And so Kylie Cirillo was the head coach at the time. I talked with him. I'll walk on. Like I knew, again, I was coming from a rural town, 12,000 people. Knew I had some areas that I needed to focus on, and my whole thought was, okay, come in, redshirt my freshman year, but show it and work on it and attack the process of getting better. And then even the very first road trip, I made the travel squad, which was an exciting time for me. And then we get there and my jersey wasn't in the bin, and I was like, coach, I was supposed to be here, right? And he goes, yeah, I don't know what happened. My fault. Like, we have this number. I was like, okay, that's fine. I just making sure I didn't get on the bus when I wasn't supposed to get on the bus. But that was fun. I went through a couple injuries, both my ankle and then my back, my freshman and sophomore year. So then after my sophomore year, I took a year off and was rehabbing my back quite a bit. And then that's when I actually first got into coaching at the high school level, because I went back to West Plains and the head coach was still there, and he asked me to come on and be his assistant and be the head JV coach. So I did that for that 1 year. And they got 3rd place in state, which was the highest finish they've ever had. Not that
Wow.
I had anything to do with it. It was a very good, very talented group, but I just think also, my ability to relate and connect and help get them, pushed and motivated a little bit more, allowed them to be able to kind of have the success that they did. And then after that, I knew I wanted to finish up playing because, when it's kind of done, it's done, and it's always different. It's never the same once you're done playing collegiately. So I wanted to go and finish up, and I knew some friends up in Iowa at William Penn at an AI school. So I just went up there to finish up, finish playing there, which was a lot of fun. Stayed on, got my master's, and then that's kind of when I started my coaching career throughout the college ranks.
Wow, that's awesome. I've heard William Penn is definitely one of those bigger schools. When you talk about NAIA, William Penn is one of those top dog kind of schools. So
yeah, it was a lot different too. So when I was there, we didn't have a ton of internationals. They have a decent amount now, and they actually made it to the national championship game this past fall. They fell, but they still, they're there. They're quality side.
Oh yeah, I was about to say, like when you were going to school, how, like, even when you were at you said Missouri Southern, was there a ton of internationals that you had to compete with, or was it more American?
No, more American. I honestly think we only had one gentleman. He was from Cameroon. I believe he was our only international at the time. So
okay, and so obviously you finish up your playing career. What spearheaded this coaching career? Was it just like you did the JD at the Scissors for 1 year and you're like, I have to keep doing this? Like what really kind of spearheaded you to want to coach?
Sure. I think I knew I wanted to coach, even I think it was junior year in high school. I was in the English class, and I'm pretty sure we were supposed to be, reading or watching something of like Mice and Men or something. But we were getting ready to play Joplin, and they had a driver who was like one of the leading goal scorers in the state at the time. And my good friend and captain, we were in class, and we just started kind of chopping it up of, hey, what do you think formation wise? What do you think coach can do? What do you think, how are we going to approach it? And I just knew that, I've always loved sports. I wanted to be around sports. I love being a part of a team, something that's bigger than oneself. And I think the coaching the year of high school was an eye opener. It was fun and enjoyable, but I also love being that kind of the GM, being able to go out and recruit and find those pieces and bring those in and kind of bring it all together. So I knew I wanted to kind of do it at the collegiate level. So it's interesting though, because, those jobs are hard to get, and sometimes you have to go to a lot of different places of where the job is. Maybe you don't want to necessarily be there, but especially being younger and ambitious about it. Like my first head coaching job took me to Aberdeen, South Dakota, and that was interesting. It was restarting a program, and then on the women's side, and then the men's program, the coach left late, so I got kind of that responsibility as well. And I looked at it as, okay, I have an opportunity to kind of double my experience, just by working with both teams. So, it was there for 4 years, and, it was a good experience. I also love just being able to bring student athletes in who, maybe didn't have the greatest upbringing or are from a bad area or don't have a lot. And then to be able to help them, become the best version of themselves and see who they are. And then also, put them in positions to be successful in life, walking across the stage, getting the degree, and being excited about their future.
Yeah. So you had to go to South Dakota. So I guess one of the big things, like, because I got a couple of guys, because I obviously someday I would love to be in the college game, but unfortunately it's got to be the right place at the right time, and the money's got to be good, because unfortunately, like, I'm at that point now in my life where if I gave up a teaching job and a high school coaching job to go be an assistant at a JUCO or a NAI, I would be making way less money than I'm making now. So it's very tough, I don't know how, but like how it would work for me right now, probably sometime later on when I retire or something like that. But when you're young like that, how did you get the job? Like, what was it? How did you go, and did you have to apply? Did you find it online? Like, what was the way, like, what were the pathways that you found to get, these jobs?
Sure. So when I was a graduate assistant, obviously I was able to get all my tuition for my master's paid for. I had some free housing. I was in an old dorm that was not being used, so we got to live for free. But then I think I was making 100 and like maybe $75 a month at the time, and granted you're 24, you're 25,
Yeah.
okay, you can, do odd jobs. And I did. I was,
Did you get food at the school too? Did they pay you for like a
we
lunch
did,
stipend?
no, we didn't have that perk at the time.
Man.
So, and then once I was done with my GA, my first, like, I guess you could say real job in coaching, I was a part-time assistant at Kansas Wesleyan on both the men's and women's side, and that was still just a $10,000 position. So, and that didn't include dorms, anything. So, it can be tough. You got to kind of pay your dues and kind of grind and kind of get there to be in a position. Thankfully that South Dakota job, the athletic director I actually knew, who was at William Penn. And when I was doing my master's, it was funny because I didn't realize it then, but he would come in and he would talk with me about, hey, if you were running a program, how many, kids would you want, or how would you do this, or how, so it was almost like, he was almost interviewing me a little bit there, or just kind of seeing how I would go about things. So then when he got the job up there and reached out, I said, well, obviously I'm interested because it's a head coaching job. It's an opportunity to kind of get things going, but it's also a good situation because I do know the athletic director. It was a time, again, brand new program. So there weren't really much expectations. It was more so, can you build it and then get it where it needs to be over time? And at that time, my parents were living back in Minnesota. So it was kind of closer to family. So great experience. I think we went 2-14 the first year. Then we went 4-12 the second year. Third year we were 500, and then the fourth year we were like 11, like 6-4, something like that. So we were able to build it, and that was awesome to see. And then from there, my parents had moved back out to Washington State. And then the job at Eastern Oregon had opened up, and I applied for it and was fortunate enough to get that. And even just from the get-go, they had never won a conference tournament or even a conference title in regular. And the very first year we did both. We did that the second year as well. And of the 6 years I was there, we went to nationals 4 out of the 6 years. And we were always, again, playing with the top teams in the NAIA, and it was just a lot of fun. I mean, competition is fun. The process is fun, and it's what it's all about. So really enjoyable.
Yeah. So as a perfect little segue is that I wanted to get into. And so obviously you've now coached in South Dakota, you said Oregon, right? Eastern Oregon, and now you're in Missouri again. So when you're at these different states, what's it like recruiting like kiddos that maybe you're not familiar with an area? So how do you get yourself into the spot where you can be a better recruiter in those areas that maybe you're not used to? Are you contacting club coaches? Is it high school coaches? Is it community people? Like, how are you getting into an area and then getting to know the landscape of the area?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, each place and each stop has been a little bit different. But I do think it's all about reaching out to club, to high school, junior college coaches, even other 4-year coaches that, if a kid, potentially does go on. So, now the transfer portal. But I think, in South Dakota, the approach was, well, they didn't have a team, and, we were trying to kind of build something in I was also in the same town as Northern State, which was a Division II school. So it was tough to recruit the kind of caliber of student athlete that we wanted. So a lot of that was kind of outside in recruiting. So we went to California quite a bit for that because we had a great nursing program up there. Obviously in California, a lot of kids want to get out of California and experience different things. So we were California heavy on our roster in South Dakota. And then as we were able to kind of build success, we were able to kind of expand our local pocket and be able to get some of those kids who wanted to then stick around and be a part of that. When I was at Eastern Oregon, kind of that Pacific Northwest region, we would recruit heavily. We would go out and watch a lot of club games. It's still fairly rural, so the high school scene wasn't the greatest with where we were located. The west side of the state up in Portland, and that area obviously is strong. But we recruited Washington, Idaho, Oregon, California, quite a bit in that area. And then being here, and I think another thing that's been nice is, with even Eastern Oregon and then Missouri Western have both been state institutions. So just knowing that, the cost of attendance and the cost of tuition, you're not putting a kid in a bad spot potentially financially moving forward.
Yeah.
So, that's always something that's also on my mind is, yes, kid is great and maybe we want to bring them in, but if they're leaving after 4 years and have a ton of debt, I mean, that I don't, we don't use kids, so we want to bring them in. We want to have that relationship and that rapport that goes well on their time playing here. So that was important to me, just morally of being around and being a part of programs like that. But yeah, being here again with the facilities, with the resources, with the conference that we're in, we kind of, it's almost all encompassing. The club scene, there's obviously the ECNL and GA, and even RL and a lot of those tournaments. So we have quite a few California kids still. We have quite a few Kansas City kids, Omaha kids, and Iowa kids as well. So we definitely love to kind of see and look and find those who can help us and bring them in regardless of where they're coming from.
What was it like having a bunch of kids from California have to deal with South Dakota?
It was so funny. One, obviously the temperature was probably the biggest one because you go through blizzards and and I told our kids all the time, I was like, the worst of it you won't be there for because we'll be on winter break, but it's still going to be cold. We had a bubble at the time, so that was kind of nice that they could at least utilize that. But it was always funny because they would say when they went back home to California, it would be like 60 there and everyone would be bundled up because they're cold, and they would still just be in shorts and like a hoodie, and they're like, this isn't cold. Like, what are you guys talking about? So, and we told them that's what it would end up being like as well. They also said the one thing that, if they're checking out in a grocery line up in South Dakota, like they'd have conversations with the clerk or even everybody else. Whereas California is more like head down, just walk, you kind of mind yourself. Like people actually like talk to you and are nice here. I was like, Midwest is a little different than the coast can be sometimes.
That Midwest hospitality, man, it's wild. So obviously you're getting kids from like California and all that. Are you big on internationals? Do you kind of look at that market, or do you want to keep it more American based?
I'm not opposed to it because, I mean, obviously, hey, it's kind of, it's their game first in a sense, and I think that you have to make sure that they're going to be in a position to be successful as well, and that right now with how things are, whether it's scholarship, whether it's resources, we do have we've had a couple internationals. We have one right now on our team, and we had another one 2 years ago, but it's just a little more challenging because we typically have to then dish out a little bit more money just because of how that scholarship structure is set up. So it's not that we're opposed to it, but we just also think that there's a lot closer that we can kind of capitalize on.
Yeah. Do you think that's more just based on it's also the women's game, is the fact that it's a lot stronger in America for the women's game compared to the men's game?
100%. Yeah, definitely.
So have you always stuck with just, like, I know you said you did a little bit of the boys and the girls in South Dakota. Have you always just stuck with the girls game? And is there a reason why you've done that?
So when I was a GA, I was actually a GA on a graduate assistant on the men's side at Penn. And then, like I said, I was an assistant for the men's and women's at Kansas Wesleyan. When I got hired on in South Dakota, it was strictly just to be the women's coach and get that program started. And then I was the coach for both for the first 3 years. And then that fourth year, we kind of split again. And I don't know why. I just think with kind of the more so maybe the approach and the style that the women's game is, it just kind of drew me to that a little bit more. I think you don't have to deal as much with some of the egos that you might have to with some of the guys. I honestly think that the girls are a lot tougher. They don't roll around or try to fake an injury as much. You'll see girls walk up with the bloody nose and they just get right back at it. So, I think there's differences, obviously, whether it's, speed of play, style of play, different things. But, I also I've just found that with the girls programs that I've been able to have, thankfully, it's been more about the team and the me or sorry, the us, as opposed to the me and the I. So, I just think that's what's been enjoyable about it. I also give a lot of credit. So one of the coolest things I think I had was that first year at presentation. My younger sister she was at Penn, but she actually transferred up and played for me my first year, which was really cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah, that was a fun little season.
What was that like? Coaching your own sister? What was that like?
Well, everyone called her grandma because she was by far the oldest. Like I said, we were a young team there at the time of
Yeah.
that presentation. But it was, like I said, it was awesome. We have a really good relationship. Obviously, we've grown up playing soccer and watching soccer. I kind of helped out in high school or even like with her club stuff when she was growing up. So I thought it was really neat. And to be honest, I thought the dynamic worked well. Like there wasn't like favoritism or anything like that showed. If anything, I was harder on her than some of the others. But it was a really, really cool experience that I'll definitely cherish.
So how many years did you coach her? So did she just come for your first
just
year, or
just that first year of
okay.
That presentation? Yeah.
Wow, that I've never heard that before. I've never heard of a coach coaching his sister. So like, what's the age difference?
Oh my goodness, let's see, I'm 39. I think she's like 5-6 years.
Okay. So, and that's also another thing too. Like you're pretty young coaching at that college level. So, what did you have to do to kind of earn the respect from because a lot of times when you have younger coaches, they may not even be doing it on purpose, but a lot of times it's tough for kids to respect you when they probably would have gone to high school with you, or college with you. How did you kind of build that to earn their respect?
I think a lot of it is, and we kind of preach that even here still, is that we're all in it together. And so at that point, I was still, in decent shape and could still play and can still, contribute. So, hey, if they were running, I was going to run. If we were scrimmaging, we needed some bodies. I was scrimmaging sometimes as well. So I just think through the action component of it all, they were able to kind of see that, and it helped us kind of build it.
Yeah. So when you're building a brand new program, you said this was their first year ever having a team.
So they had it. They were Division III before, and then they dropped the team, and they didn't have a team for like 2 or 3 years, and then they were bringing it back at the NAI level, but there weren't any girls still there.
Okay. So how did you go? So I guess that's one of the hardest things because there's different ways. Obviously, if you have a winning season, people always tend to say like, "Hey, it's really easy recruiting after you have a winning season." Like kids want to be where they're going to be successful or where they're going to win. And it's really tough to recruit after a really terrible season, and then it's even harder to recruit if you've never had a team. So I guess you've kind of done all of that, haven't you? You've gone from bad seasons, good seasons, and now completely rebuilding. Let's take me through the 3 things. Like when you didn't even have a team, how did you recruit? How did you get kids? What'd you say to them? What was your pitch?
That was just trying to get them to buy in and kind of see the vision that I had or that we had for where we wanted the program to go, and just trying to spin it in the sense of, yes, there's established programs, but there's also almost guaranteed playing time here, so if
there you go.
wanted to play right away, obviously we focus a lot on the academic piece of it as well. Excuse me. So that was a big selling point. So other than that, it was just simply, hey, you can come be a part of something great and kind of be able to say you were a part of that first group, and then just that vision of, hey, I plan on being here for to see you through. I've always said, like, I want to be at a spot where I can at least see that initial recruiting class graduate. Just again, that's, hey, I'm investing in them, they're investing in us, and we want to do this together. So that it could be tough though, because obviously you're going to lose out on some players that could really help the program because they want to go somewhere that's a little more established, which I get, which is why it probably took us a little while to get some traction and some momentum going. But once we did, like I said, it was able to really take off.
Yeah. So, and then take me through, okay, now you've had a team. So you could talk about like maybe you're Eastern Oregon or here at Missouri Western, but okay, now you've had a bad season. What are some of the things that maybe you talk to? Because I've been a coach. I've had 3-19 seasons. My first year as a head boys soccer coach, I went 4-19-1. The next year I went 14-9. So like, how did you? What are the things that you said when you were recruiting girls, or even what did you say to the girls that were on the team to like keep them motivated to stick with the project, to stick with your vision?
Yeah. So even here at like Missouri Western, my first year when we went, 5-8-6, I even told the girls, I said, that was my first losing season in 8 years. And I flat out told them, and they've obviously it was kind of up and down, and so they've kind of been through it a little bit. Oops,
Mm-hmm.
I think I lost you. And I just flat out said, like, enough is enough, and we're going to do the work. We're going to focus on the process, and be committed to doing what it takes. I've told them all the time, for us to go and do things we want to do, we have to do things we haven't done before. So if that's committing that much more into the weight room, if that's doing extra fitness or touches, or playing over the summer on your own, or just competing at a higher level in our training sessions, and so I think through the fall, we were close. We were really close. There were close games, just didn't quite have maybe the extra legs or a little bit more of the depth that we needed. And so then, going into that spring, we really kind of just focused on that. Okay, the fall was the fall. We're getting ready to focus on the spring, or on the spring, and then get ready for the next fall. And then, when the reinforcements arrived, and the girls, you said, continued to buy in, and were just, I think they also understood that, okay, they've had a lot of turnover. Now we have some consistency. Now we kind of have a vision and an idea of how we want to go about things and how we want to attack it. It just helped them kind of buy into it that much more. And then I think it was also a little bit less thinking, and they could just play. They could just be free and play fast and play quick. And that allowed us to kind of obviously have the nice turnaround we did this past fall.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, how the heck did you go from 5'8" to 16'3" Like, did you get like some random stud I don't know about?
No,
What
not
happened,
really,
man?
not really. I truly just do believe that, again, it was the buy-in, from everybody. Obviously we went out and we had more time to recruit. We had the opportunity to use the portal a little bit, so we had, I think, a better collective. But at the same time, things look great on paper, but if you don't go out and take care of them in person when you're actually performing, the roster on paper might look great, but it can also amount to nothing if you don't do the work. So I think, again, they had that kind of sour taste with how that first fall ended. And so when we brought everybody back in, and just getting them to be a team, getting close with one another, playing hard for one another, and we were able to do really good things. It was a really fun, exciting ride and journey. And even at, when that ended, and at 16-3-3 in the best season in program history, like we've talked to them throughout last spring, is, look, like, that was last year's team. This year, this team in the spring, and this team, what it's going to be in the fall, is completely different. We may think, okay, we're bringing back a very strong core group, but it doesn't mean we're going to be able to have the same success or the same type of year that we had. So we have to stay humble. We have to stay hungry. We have to continue to just, take it one game at a time, and just invest. We have to do the work. There's no substitute for the work component of it. And that's something that they know. I'm very big on, the work rate, and, the accountability piece, and, performing at a high level, but again, also enjoying it. Like, it is a game. You should enjoy it. Winning is fun. So sometimes you got to do things that aren't as fun. No one likes to, do sprints or have to put in a lot of fitness in, but it puts you in position to be able to be in those spots to have success.
Thank you so much for watching part one of this podcast with Coach Jacob Plocher from Missouri Western State University. Wait till Monday for part two. Thank you.